Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Functional Family Fridays. Today we're talking about the sixth most emotionally damaging type of parent, and that is the parent in denial, or what I love to call the ostrich parent. Yesterday I put out an Instagram post here about the ostrich parent. This is a parent in denial who knows the truth, can see the truth, but still chooses to believe the lies about what's going on in their family. Okay, so we all know the ostrich basically putting their head in the sand, pretending not to see or hear anything, la 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 la. You know, I often say that denial's a happy place for these type of parents. So what's the definition of a parent in denial? It's a parent who knows the truth about their negative family situation, sees the lies, the hurtful drama, the pain that it's causing other family members, but chooses to do absolutely nothing about it or even admit that there's a problem. Now, we might think that sometimes keeping the peace is a way to go, but often this can become the most harmful way to parent, because doing nothing could be far more damaging than doing something. Like, when you see something happening in your family, it's not a choice as a parent. You have an obligation, a responsibility as a good parent to do something to fix the problems. Okay? It's not a choice. We'll talk a bit more about it. As you can see, I get very passionate about people that stick their head in the sand and want to pretend they don't do anything about it. All right? So the other definition is they've convinced themselves that this is normal behavior. They think that family dysfunction and having all these problems is normal. Therefore, I don't have to do anything about this. Happens to every family. And the answer is no, it doesn't. Not in healthy, loving families. Does not happen. Again, families aren't perfect, but when there are problems, loving, responsible parents step up to the plate and do something about it. Okay? So there are three types of parent denials, why they choose to be in denial. One, they deny their child's bad behavior, right? When it's very clear that the child is acting out. So they want to deny that their behavior is bad. Okay. Second one is if the parent has a codependent relationship with the difficult child. Like from my previous videos, meaning the difficult child is the golden child and the parent in denial is in denial of their bad behavior because they like that child, because they have a lot in common with that child. So they have that codependent relationship. Therefore, they don't want to admit that this child is causing problems or, for other family members because of their codependent relationship. Okay. The other type of parent denial is the parent because of their low self-worth. They're always putting the needs of, their family members before their self. Now, let me explain this. It's not unusual for a parent to be selfless and to put their child's needs before them. But when it's becoming habitual or to the point of detriment where the parent is neglecting their own self and their own health, right, staying in denial by putting everyone else's needs first, then it's not healthy. Okay? So let's talk about the characteristics of a parent that's in denial. Well, clearly they're insecure. They have a low self-esteem, low self-worth, and they completely lack self-confidence. Because if they had the confidence, they would address the issues. But they don't have that confidence within themselves, so they tend to stay in denial. So these parents, like the other 5 that I talked about, are all fear-based parents, okay? So it's their fear that's making them choose to pretend that there's no problems, okay? They believe they're powerless in the situation. They don't have the confidence or the esteem to solve the problem, so they don't have very good, strong coping skills, right, to effectively deal with the family situation, okay? So they lack those coping skills. They feel and act like victims when they're faced with stress, okay? So when stress comes, they put their head in the sand. That's how they cope. That's their way of coping with it. Not coping with it is their way of coping with it, okay? That is the parent in denial, because they're too afraid to make changes. First of all, they don't have the confidence to know how to change the situation, and they don't have the confidence and esteem to make those, unpopular decisions that parents often have to make for their family, for their children, in order to make that family functional and loving and respectable, okay? So they're afraid to make the changes. So they'd rather deal with the stress, the pain, the family drama, than try to fix those problems. Believe it or not, that's the choice they make. They'd rather deal with all the discomfort and the stress, okay? They tend to be people pleasers, as I mentioned earlier, but not out of love. They're pleasing those people, those family members, those golden children, out of fear. Sometimes those children could be bullies or controlling the parent. So rather than confronting or dealing with that child, they'll tend to stick their head in the sand, pretend everything's fine, and let them sort of control them, right? So that sometimes they become victims to their own children or other family members that are controllers or that are bullies. It's not unusual, okay? So again, why do they choose to stay in denial? We've talked a little bit about this. Basically, in a nutshell, it's fear, right? Remember, as I said, every decision we make is based on love or fear. So these are all fear-based parenting styles. So this is another parenting style that's fear-based. So they're afraid. And what are they afraid of? They're afraid of change, right? Being in denial excuses them of having to make any changes. If you pretend because once you see it, you can't deny seeing it. Once you hear something or know something, you can't deny the truth. So for them, they'd rather not hear it or know it or see it, because then they have a parental obligation to have to step up and do something, okay? So they're afraid of making changes because they're not confident. They don't feel they're not confident parents, and they don't feel good about the decisions they make for the family. So in their mind is, what I don't know won't hurt me, okay? So the other thing they're afraid of is failure. Again, because they have no confidence as parents and in themselves, so they don't want to change anything. Let's just leave it the way it is, and they're secretly hoping that everything will fix itself or go away, and things will get better, and unfortunately, they don't. If anything, they get worse. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, I'm just telling you the truth. Think about your physical issue. If you deny your unhealthy symptoms, your heavy weight that you're gaining, or the symptomatic problems or headaches or persistent symptoms, guess what? It's only going to get worse. So, try to find the courage to face the truth so that you can start the healing process. okay? Because again, things don't get better, they only get worse if we neglect them. The other thing they're afraid of is being judged. They're very afraid of what other people will think of them and think of their family. So they'd rather not expose or disclose what's going on or admit there's problems because they're afraid and they feel shameful of what people will think of them. Okay? And that's unfortunate. This is sort of an old school thinking process. You know, nowadays everything's out in the open. What do you have to be afraid of? Okay? So remember what I had said in the past. When we're dealing with stress, we choose to fight or fly. That's that fight or flight symptoms or strategy. So in this case, they're not fighters. They're clearly flyers. Controlling parents are more of the fight type. These are the ones that just want to put their, fingers in their ears and fly away and their head in the sand and pretend it's not happening, right? So they're not the fighters. These are the flyers. That's how they cope, unfortunately. Okay, just bear with me. So as I often say to anyone who will listen, denial is a happy place, right? Yeah, so they live on the land of denial, of bread and honey, and to them, everything's perfect. But unfortunately, this is not the reality for everybody living in their family, okay? Because they're under the belief of just keep the peace. It's better to say nothing and just tolerate all this, keep the peace, and everyone's happy. Unfortunately, not everyone's happy. Because if you have family members that are doers, that need to, embrace change and fix things and take, sort of an aggressive attitude, not aggressive, but initiative and are healthy self-esteem, they want to fix and take responsibility. But if you have a parent who is in denial, it can become a real power struggle, okay? See a little squirrel there? It's really cool. He's dropping all the nuts, so you'll hear that as well. I'm trying to make use of all the beautiful days we have left in the fall. That's why I'm out here. So, in the way they believe is doing nothing is keeping the peace. But what they don't realize, as I said earlier, doing nothing could be far more emotionally damaging than doing something. Because do something. For instance, if you know that your child is stressing with something and the child has approached you to help them and you choose to do nothing because of your own fear or lack of self-confidence, they're going to interpret that as though you don't care about them, that their needs are not important to you, and you're going to have far more damage with that unhappy child than you would finding the courage to do something, okay? So this is why we're doing these videos, not to lay blame on parents, but for you to see yourself in one of these positions that are struggling as an unhappy parent and that are having challenges at home as a result of it. So let's talk a moment about the child, the emotional impact that denial parents have on their children. Well, the children grow up feeling mentally and emotionally neglected. They feel ignored and that their needs don't matter because they have come to you with their problems and you're basically choosing to do nothing. So how would that interpret to a child? As though you don't give a shit. That's how it's going to look and that's how it's going to feel. Now multiply that by so many years and you've got a problem. And you've got an unhappy child as well, a resentful child. So the other thing that it does is it encourages sibling rivalry, favoritism, and jealousy between the children. So for instance, if you're sticking your head in the sand about one of your child's bad behavior, meanwhile ignoring the needs of the other children, well, that's going to cause them to dislike the child that you're favoring or catering to, okay? And this is going to cause strife. It's going to cause sibling rivalry. It's going to cause them to lose respect for you as well, all right? So as you can see, doing nothing is far more damaging, okay? The child develops a negative attitude. Over time, they start to become very angry, resentful, disrespectful to you because they're unhappy, okay? And they'll start to pull away from you because basically they've come to you for help and you're choosing to do nothing. So that to them is disrespectful and they're just going to step away from you. And you might lose that relationship altogether, unfortunately, if you don't do something, okay? The child becomes pessimistic. They feel hopeless. They feel like, what's the point of doing something in life because nothing's ever going to change. So they've learned that from you. They've learned that nothing's going to change, everything's hopeless, a negative sort of attitude towards life and living, which can often lead to depression and sometimes suicide, okay? When a child loses hope, or when anybody loses hope, then it's a very scary, dangerous territory that they start to tread on. They believe that their needs are not a priority and that they're always getting the sort of short end of the stick attitude towards life, okay? And they eventually become, they develop low self-confidence, low self-worth, and low self-esteem as well due to that. So now we've got dogs barking, so I'm going to sort of wrap this up now. So if you are living in denial right now about your family problems, I can help you, okay? I do have a solution. Step one is you got to pull your head out of the sand, number one. You have to admit that you have problems and that you're willing to change and do something. Now, don't get overwhelmed. You don't have to solve all the problems all at once. The first step is you have to admit there are problems. The second step, you have to admit that you're willing to do something about it, because that will even help fix the relationship with your children. If you you have to mean it, okay? If you tell them, I know that I've been in denial and I'm pretending that things aren't working, but I'm ready to face the truth and start doing something about it. Please be patient with me, but we'll get through it. They're going to embrace that. They're going to give you a chance. But if you say that and don't actually mean it and don't follow through, well, then you're going to solidify the feelings they already have of hopelessness. That it's a hopeless case, that you're a hopeless case, that you're never going to change, and that family is, crazy, okay, for lack of a better word. So when you're ready, you have to seriously be ready to make those changes. But the good news is, there is good news, you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you. I've been through all this, and I know how to help you, okay? So step two is you gotta work on your emotional healing so you can build up your self-confidence, your self-esteem, all right? And be that parent that your children need you to be, okay? So the solution is I've got an emotionally empowering parenting program called the Happy Parent that I would be happy to, offer to you as a solution. So if you're ready, again, to pull your head out of the sand, take the step and let me help you become emotionally empowered, I could offer you 2 steps today. Number one, go on to my website, thefunctionalfamily.ca, and download the free emotional checklist, okay? Because we need to see where your emotions are at right now. Get a checklist. It's free. It's easy to do. Takes 2 minutes to do, but it'll give you a quick snapshot of how you're feeling and where your emotions are at. Okay? And then step 3 is register for the Happy Parent Program right now. Let's get started. Stop wasting time, because as I said, things are not going to get better. They're only going to get worse, but you got to start one step at a time making those changes. Okay? So again, go on to, I'll send the links to this video below, but if you go on to the functionalfamily.ca, you could download the free emotional checklist, and you could also register for the Happy Parent right now. Okay? And if you haven't done so already, please join my free Facebook group called Stressful Family Relationships. Okay? There you'll get some strategies and some video tips and all kinds of information, and you'll also get to speak with like-minded people that are also having similar struggles in their family as you are. Okay? And finally, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's called Reiki Rita Roberts, and you'll get free notifications every Friday when these videos release. So I hope you found today's video useful and you've learned what a parent in denial is. And if you are a parent in denial, you also have some solutions to take steps to start making things better. Because you got to remember this, your family is forever. They're not going anywhere, okay? Despite all the challenges we have in life right now with COVID, this, that, you know what? Your family is not going anywhere. So that you have control of. You may not have control of COVID and all this other stuff going on in life, but you have control of the family and those relationships. So, and they're not going anywhere unless, of course, they dissolve. So we want to mitigate that and make sure that we fix our family and we stay in a place of love during these fear-based times, okay? So please, take advantage of this help that I've got for you, and let's get better, okay? And from my heart to yours, I will see you next week on another episode of Functional Family Fridays. Be well, stay hopeful, God bless. Bye.